Tonight we're going to be going out and looking at bars and actually giving some tickets to people that are smoking in bars. Jack and I go in first, and you guys follow us maybe 15 seconds behind. And what we'll try to do is locate the smokers, and we generally stand behind them so that you know where they are.
I'd just like to tell you it's illegal to smoke in bars in California, okay?
These people are breaking the law. They're smoking cigarettes in a bar in San Francisco. The bar has been raided.
They call themselves the smoking police. There was 2 police officers and 3 health department officials came in commando style. They took strategic positions in the bar so no one could put their cigarettes out. It was like a drug raid. I mean, we were like criminals.
Here we're in a bar. You can't smoke a cigarette.
I'd just like to tell you that it's illegal to smoke in bars in California, okay?
The last bastion of smoking is a bar.
Can I get you a beer?
I enjoy smoking. I'll stop when I feel like stopping, not because I've been told to stop. I have no intentions of stopping. I enjoy it.
The so-called smoking police patrolling the streets of San Francisco are enforcing California's latest anti-smoking health measures, fining smokers $75 for each offense. For law-breaking smokers, it's the latest attack on their freedom to light up from a society increasingly intolerant of cigarettes.
They're health Nazis. They're looking to eradicate tobacco use. We're losing right now, but we're not going to lose the war. We're losing the battles.
In the early 1980s, the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company wanted a Harrison Ford look-alike to spearhead a new advertising campaign. As the Winston man, Dave Gerlitz became a frontline soldier for the industry promoting Winston cigarettes. His job was to recruit new smokers at a time when public knowledge about the dangers of cigarette smoking was increasing. A smoker himself at the time, Gerlitz soon became concerned over his client's attitude about the very product he was promoting.
One of the executives from R.J. Reynolds came over and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm smoking." They said, "Well, you're still smoking that stuff?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "How come you guys from R.J. Reynolds don't smoke?" And he turned to me and he said, "We don't smoke the shit, we just sell it. We reserve the right to smoke for the young, the poor, the black, and the stupid."
This highly successful ad campaign, with Gerlitz playing a member of a search and rescue team, conveyed the essence of macho camaraderie. It was an image, says Gerlitz, designed to appeal to young smokers.
They told me on many occasions my job was to get 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 kids smoking every day to replace those who quit or die. We were getting new replacement smokers, and they, in our minds, were being told it's 12, 13, 14-year-old boys.
In fact, later on, R.J. Reynolds was discovered to have tracked the consumption habits, including cigarettes, of children as young as 14. The company admits this happened. Its present management disapproves of such behavior as revealed in internal company documents.
I think it was regrettable that it was written. Those memoranda are inappropriate. There's no question in my mind that tobacco companies oughtn't to be following the consumption habits of minors in planning their strategies for the future. Completely inappropriate.
In 1987, R.J. Reynolds launched a cartoon character, Joe Camel, to revive its tired Camel cigarette brand. But critics felt advertisements like these were encouraging young kids to smoke. Reynolds responded that the ads were designed to convince young adults to switch over from rival brands. Anti-tobacco campaigners were not convinced.
The tobacco industry has been brilliant in hooking kids. It demonstrates what you can do if you have no moral gyroscope whatsoever. It's not a coincidence that after Joe Camel was introduced, the percentage of American kids who smoke Camel cigarettes skyrocketed from less than 0.5% to well over 13%. During that same period of time, the number of adults who used Camel didn't move at all. Joe Camel wasn't one iota about adult brand switching. It was 100% designed to appeal to kids.
The one question my shareholders are going to ask me at the end of the year is, has Camel's market share increased? Because remember, it's just a consumer product competing against Philip Morris and other companies. And we would not be doing our job if we didn't do effective work in our marketing campaigns. It's a consumer product.
We have to sell cigarettes to your kids. We need 500,000 new smokers a year just to stay in business. So we advertise in your schools, at candy counters. We lower our prices. We have to. It's nothing personal. You understand.
The tobacco industry. How low will they go to make a profit?
I had my first cigarette when I was 13.
I can't remember doing very many things without a cigarette in my hand. Almost like a twin. A Siamese twin. Somebody that was there constantly. And someone is embracing you. Like a friend is there. Everything is gonna be alright.
But everything wasn't all right. At the age of 41, Debbie developed throat cancer. Despite this, she remains hooked on the habits she acquired in childhood. She now smokes through a hole in her neck called the stoma.
I like the cigarette suction from my mouth. And after it gets lit, I hold it to the stoma. And I'd like to say I just take a little puff, but you don't. You get all that you can. It's like, oh God, yes.
The question of whether cigarette smoking is addictive or whether smokers smoke freely was to prove a key battle in this phase of the tobacco war. The makers of Marlboro, the world's most popular cigarette, produced some unwelcome evidence of their own about the addictive nature of cigarettes. Their secret work on rats was supposed to find a safer alternative to nicotine. But what emerged from the work on Philip Morris's rodents had immense implications for the cigarette industry and the question of addiction.
Rats took nicotine just the way people smoke. Rats would wake up in the morning, and before they would eat, before they would groom, before they'd get their water, they'd go over and they'd press that lever for nicotine just like a person who gets up and lights up a cigarette. And they would load their brains up with nicotine in the morning. And then all day long, about once every hour or so, the rats would go back and press that lever, just like people who stand outside and smoke cigarettes. And then right before the rat went to bed, right before a person goes to bed, they smoke a bunch of cigarettes to put the nicotine into their brain. And that was very revealing to us, that here was an animal mimicking what a person does. And that said something to us that was very important. It said that cigarette smoking was a biological process of addiction, not just a habit.
Victor DeNoble realized how sensitive this discovery was to an industry that publicly denied cigarettes were addictive.
People were very careful, Philip Morris, not to use the big A word, the addiction word. They would use things like impact. What is the impact of this cigarette? What they really meant was how much nicotine is it delivering to the brain.
Unexpectedly, he was summoned to Philip Morris's corporate headquarters.
All of a sudden, I'm going up on a corporate jet to New York City. I mean, I'm a grunt-level scientist. I'm in a laboratory working with rats. And I talked to the president of Philip Morris. He asked me one question. He said, why should I risk $1 billion industry on rats pressing levers for nicotine? All he wanted to know was the profit margin. This is about money, nothing else.
Company lawyers now moved into the room next door to DeNoble. He was told to withdraw his research work from publication. Then the president of Philip Morris arrived.
This guy shows up, and I'm sure he's making like $1 bazillion a day. And he says to me, is this a test that a government agency would use to determine whether a substance has an abuse liability, an addiction potential? I said, of course, yes. And he got all upset, and he grabbed this guy by the arm, and he said, we're going out of here. And he opens the door, and he looks back, and he says to us, damn it, man, you're making us into a drug company.
Philip Morris now decided it was time to stop DeNoble's laboratory work. he was summoned to his boss's office.
I'm sitting there thinking, wow, you know, this is more laboratory space. This is a bonus. This is a promotion. And they said, but as of 3 o'clock, and it's now 10 after 3, we don't do this research anymore. I just want you to go downstairs and kill your animals. Turn over all your documents.
DeNoble killed his 250 rats, but crucially he kept some of his research papers, and he didn't tell Philip Morris.
They had people following me and watching what I was doing, and they were making it very clear that if I did go public, I mean, they told me point blank, they would absolutely categorically sue me and have me put in jail.
DeNoble's work would stay secret for a decade, but smokers at the time were well aware of the powerful hold nicotine had on them. Addiction was the key for this man and his personal war on cigarettes. In the 1980s, C. Everett Koop was America's #1 health official, the Surgeon General. He regarded his fight with the tobacco industry not only as a health campaign, but also a moral crusade. In 1988, he produced an official report labeling cigarettes as addictive.
We, in a sense, made a word that was always associated with heroin and cocaine, criminals, and crime in our streets, with a drug that was illegal. And here we have a Surgeon General's report that says a legal drug in this country, nicotine, sold as a legal product, tobacco, is just as addictive as cocaine and heroin. Well, that changed a lot of people's thinking.
Opponents very much wanted to have that word in its pejorative sense, to link smoking with crack cocaine and heroin. And it was part of the strategy, obviously, to demonize smoking and to make it antisocial.
It was this man who produced the most damaging evidence about what the tobacco industry knew about addiction and was keeping secret. In 1988, Merrill Williams clerked for a law firm representing Brown and Williamson, a subsidiary of British American Tobacco. They paid him to sort through hundreds of boxes containing the most secret and sensitive documents on smoking and health. What he did next was to change the balance of power in the tobacco war.
My thoughts were, there's no way in the world I can not get these documents. I've got to get these documents. I'm going to get these documents. And believe me, I was scared to death because I was taking out the originals. I had to take it out in sections. And I did the James Bond thing. I plucked the hair and put it in the section that I took, and then I went out. Getting out and getting in was controlled by the guards. And as I passed the guards, I would be munching potato chips, and the noise of the chips would be distracting to the noise of the paper. We were allowed to carry a briefcase. And at Christmas, I filled the whole briefcase with documents because nobody was there. I didn't even make a pretense of working. I just left and passed the guards and said goodbye and had Merry Christmas, and the spirit was such that nobody wanted to stop me.
Over a 4-year period, he stole thousands of confidential documents. One memo contained a remarkable statement about addiction that contradicted all the industry's public assertions.
We're in the business of selling nicotine, an addictive drug. I was totally shocked. I mean, I knew it was true, but to see it in black and white. They knew that eventually there were going to be leaks. They just didn't know that this was going to be one big leak.
While Merrill Williams was looking for someone prepared to handle his stolen documents, Congress was about to hear sworn testimony from the tobacco industry's chief executives. Their appearance would prove a disaster.
I'd like you to rise. You raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We suffered a terrible loss in those hearings. The media picked up on it. The spectacle of the CEO standing like people before a lineup with their hands in the air was a devastating public relations blow.
It was a watershed event, and having crossed that point, we're never going to go back. The tobacco industry is not going to be able to